Hi, welcome to Bridal Society. I'm Laura and this is Rebecca.
So today we are talking about your wedding venue. So in our scenario, you've already booked your venue and now you've got a meeting coming up where you want to iron out finer details, and maybe you're wondering, what is it I need to ask them? Like, what are the questions that I need to go in and what do I need to know for this meeting? So we are here to prep you.
Yeah, so first of all, kind of one of the big things. Now this might have already been discussed when you paid your deposit to secure the venue, but really important, what money do you owe and when? So have the venue offered you an instalment plan? So you just need to make sure how much you're meant to pay, kind of at what intervals before the wedding, or is it a case of you pay your deposit and then it's one big lump sum at the end? So you just need to clarify that.
Yeah, you don't want to get there and not be able to get in. The key doesn't turn. And in terms of final numbers of your guests and of their meal choices, when does your venue need to have those by?
Something else you might not have thought of is, can you actually set up things yourself? So if you're wanting to do any decorating of the room yourself, or even just laying things out yourself, are you actually allowed at your venue, or do they ask to do it for you? And if no, when do you need to drop the things off for them?
Indeed, yes. Yeah, venues do both things. Like we had it the opposite. Like you could get in and do all the setup. I couldn't. So there was a lot of written out instructions and photographs of how I wanted things. Slightly controlled.
Okay.
And when do your suppliers have access? So regardless of when you can get in or not, what time can they get in? And if it's a case of, so there's sort of two scenarios maybe. There's one where maybe you're doing the coordination with your suppliers in terms of when they access the venue, and sorting that, or maybe your venue or your wedding coordinator wants to organise that so they can stagger it and organise what's going on. So asking when the suppliers can get access from, and also going armed with a list of the suppliers that you've booked to date and their contact numbers, so that your coordinator or venue coordinator has those to hand so they can make sure everyone showed up, for instance.
Now, if you're planning to get ready at the venue, at what time can you access the bridal suite? So if you booked a hairdresser and makeup artist, they might be telling you they need to start on your bridal party at this time, but can you actually be in the room for them to come and start at the time they need? So just double check, because some places, although they have a room available for you to get ready, they might not allow access till maybe like 9-10 o'clock, which might not quite work out depending on how many members of the bridal party need to get ready.
Yes. Yeah, the time gets earlier than people there aren't. Indeed, what time can you start and end with the venue? So it's obviously people getting access, but you know, in terms of, you're trying to think what time to put on your invitations for guests to arrive, like what time is all their setup finished and they are going to be ready for you to start? And equally, what time do they need you out by?
Yeah, and following on from that, when do you collect all your things? So if you provided lots of decorations, or even just the kind of extra maybe favours or place names, bits and bobs, extra cake, if there's such a thing left over, when are you expected to collect those? Is it you've got to have everything taken away the night of, or can you come back the next day or within a certain time frame to collect all those things?
Yes. And then in terms of music, like what time do you have to switch the music off by? That might depend on whether you're in a hotel where there's other hotel guests that aren't yours. If you're in a residential area, those kind of things are a factor. So you might actually, even though they've told you what time you have the venue till, that might actually be later than when the music runs to. And then as well, in terms of, because you might be in a residential area, in a hotel, whatever, there might also be limit levels on how loud you're allowed the music in terms of like decibels. So again, worth checking about those rules if you're thinking about hiring like a live band, DJ. Again, just decibel levels, what time they have to have stopped by. Like for instance, like we were in a residential area, we were allowed live music till a certain time, but we still had, I think, another 2 hours after that, where we were allowed just at sound system music, or maybe we would have been allowed a DJ, but obviously we were never hiring one because we had the live band. But again, where they can obviously have the sound system where they can cap the level to a certain point. So again, useful for you to know and to let any music suppliers know. But also, if you are going to do your own music, for instance, we did to fill gaps, like maybe whilst the dinner reception is happening, the wedding breakfast, and you want music in the background, do they have a sound system that they're happy for you to use, to like plug your laptop or your iPhone or iPod or whatever we're using these days with the music on to play from? Like, are they happy for you to do that? Do you need to bring your own, in which case that sometimes might need to be pack tested? There's complications, better to ask.
Yeah. And quite an important thing is who is actually running the day on the day. So if you've got a hotel or a specific wedding venue, do they have an on-the-day coordinator who will kind of move things along, make sure everything is going smoothly, keep to timings, things like that? Or are you expected to not necessarily do it yourself because you've got other things going on, but maybe have nominated people if you don't want to hire someone, or either then hire an on-the-day coordinator who's external to the venue, or someone like a master of ceremonies who will, in like the reception, will be the ones to announce speeches and mark certain occasions throughout the day, just so everyone knows what's happening when.
Yeah. Do they have decor restrictions? So again, this more so applies obviously if you're going in and decorating yourself, but also if you're doing DIYs, so you can bear in mind what you might be allowed to do and not allowed to do. So we mean in terms of things like, are you allowed to pin things into walls, or are you allowed blue tack tape, like how you're fixing things? There might be rules around that. You might not be allowed to hang things from certain structures in the building, that kind of thing. So you may kind of look at a venue and go, oh, I could hang this from there and I could do that from here, but they might have rules about it, and obviously it's better to know that before you've spent hours and hours DIYing something beautiful that you're then not allowed to put up.
And something else to consider in terms of maybe restrictions you haven't thought about were if the venue allows like real, like flame candles, so candles that have an open flame. Do they allow fireworks? So firework displays are a really popular way to kind of end the night now, but not all venues will allow them, especially if they're located in a residential area, or there might be timing restrictions to do with fireworks. Do they allow sparklers? Again, you see all these photos about these sparkler exits, but actually, are you allowed to have them? Do they allow open flames on the premises? And finally, confetti. It's such a kind of key part of most weddings, but does your venue actually allow to have you to have confetti? And if so, is it any confetti, or is it just biodegradable confetti, or do they allow you to have paper? Kind of just things to check before, again, you either spend time or money buying things that then you can't use.
Yes. Do they have wheelchair access, if you know that's going to be necessary for some of your guests? Do they have baby changing facilities? Again, obviously, you know, if you invite children, and that may or may not be relevant, but and if that is relevant, do they provide high chairs, or will you need to let those specific guests know that they need to bring something, or that the baby's going to be on their knee, that kind of thing? It's nice to have those kind of details straightened out beforehand.
And when you're thinking about your guests and where you're all going to be sitting to eat, just to check what their venue's normal table layout is. You might already know if they have like long tables or round tables, but how they normally arrange the room, and kind of what the minimum and maximum numbers they would normally have on the tables are, just so you can then plan for your table plan and start working on that.
Yes. And also maybe you want to switch something out, like maybe you want, like, is there a possibility that you can have like a sweetheart table instead of a big top table, that kind of thing, which they might not always do, but might be an option if you're interested. So again, remembering to ask that question. Also on tables, do you need them to provide extra tables for things? So they'll probably provide something for sort of cards and gifts, but again, checking that they are, where's that going to be, or where do you want it to be versus where they would normally put it, if it can be there. Are there any other things that you're planning to make yourself, like DIY, that would need table space? So again, can they provide that? Where would you like it putting? Those kind of details.
And if there's a bar at the venue and you're asking your guests to pay for their own drinks, can the bar accept both cash and card? Because if it's just a cash only bar, you might want to warn your guests in advance that they have to bring cash with them, because they might not always have it on them on the day.
I should point out that's probably quite a UK specific one. If you're in North America watching this and you're like, people pay for their drinks? Yes, in the UK it's very normal. We would just normally expect to pay for our own drinks at the wedding. But yeah. Storage. So means secure storage for your cards and gifts. Did the venue have something? So if you're in a situation where you're maybe collecting things the next day or the next day or two, do they have somewhere where they're going to securely store those items for you overnight?
And finally, who cleans up? So are the venue going to do that for you at the end of the night, or are they expecting you in your wedding dress, broom in hand?
That's a good Cinderella image right there.
To be sweeping the floors. Just something to check, because some venues might expect everything to be out of the room, you have all your belongings with you and away at the end of the night, and others will just say good night and deal with it all themselves. So just double check that so there's no nasty surprises on the wedding night.
So we hope that's been some helpful prompts for you to start thinking about what questions you might want to ask your venue, and start you think about maybe what other things that are maybe more very specific to you and your situation and your venue as well. If you feel like we've missed out any big key ones, do drop them in the comments below to help out other bride and grooms to be who might be watching. Otherwise, we hope you liked the video. Please hit subscribe and we will see you next Friday.